Hey everybody, it's Brock and we got a brand new episode of All About. Today we're doing something new and fun. We're going to be going over everything about my reef tank at my house. This is going to go over my fish, the corals I have in it, my cleanup crew, what filtration I'm running, the equipment I like to use, the chemicals I like to use, and just everything overall so that you can look at it and say, I think I'll get something like that in my tank. Maybe it'll help. So jumping right into it, we're going to do it in sections. So we're going to look at the right side of my tank. We're going to see what's going on. So starting off with fish, of course you can see my white spotted pufferfish swimming over there on the right. You got my gold striped maroon clown swimming in his big old garden of rose bulb anemones. They have really taken over there. They look great. They spawn very easily and he loves taking care of them. We also have that cabbage leather coral growing really nicely up against the glass. We have some more of those green mushrooms that just take over. They're rhodactis and they just grow all the time, constantly. It takes other things stinging them just to slow it down. So you can see how there's some on the left, there's anemones in the middle, and then some on the right. We also have those yumas, those beautiful orange Recordia yumas that I love so much, but golly, I wish those anemones wouldn't have joined in on that rock to start stinging the fire out of them. You can see they're starting to move down, getting away from them. So eventually I'm gonna try to get those fragged off and move them to a better spot so that they can continue to grow, because they can get huge and they grow pretty fairly easily and they'll split constantly. Also on my right side is I got a hang on the back Reef octopus protein skimmer that I love. I've used it for many years, haven't had any issues with it other than about the engine just kind of being a little finicky when turning back on. Sometimes it takes a little hit just to get it back going, but I've had it, I swear it's probably been since 2015 that thing's been running, so it's a beast. It lasts forever. You'll get some good products from Reef octopus. Also have a heater on the right, and as well as the intake for my Forza canister filter. So you got the Jaegers from Eheim. Love those heaters because what they'll do is they'll also, while heating the water, they also test the temperature of the water. So once you get to that temperature in your water, they shut off and they won't come back on until the temperature drops again. So they're very nice. You don't have to run into those issues where I've seen thermometers overheat a tank. It can be very dangerous. I've always had really good luck with them. At the same time, those are also very old too, so they've lasted me a very good while. Also got the Sea Veggies clip over there. That is actually magnetic, so kind of like the mag floats work. You got a magnet on the inside, magnet on the outside. Very strong tangs usually can smack those clips very easily off whenever it's just a little suction cup. So I immediately, whenever those came out, jumped on those. And as of right now, you can see there's not even algae on it. It's actually a clam on the half shell. So I let my puffer go around and eat on those. He loves them very, very much. Other things you're going to spot in here, you got plenty of that coralline algae growing on the right. I love for that stuff to take over the right and left side and the back of the tank, because I don't want to be over there just cleaning it every day, kind of like how you have to clean the green off the front. Front stays spotless, but those sides of the tanks, I just let them take over. Moving on to the middle of the tank, of course, you have that really nice big boulder of a live rock at the bottom in the middle that I put the all-time favorite green bubble coral right in the middle. You can see he's sprouting great. He's huge. He does very well in this tank. He's always been really good to me. Whenever I first got him, he was probably as big as my fist, and now he's as big as a basketball. I mean, he's huge. As you can also see, there's nothing growing on the left, right, above, or the bottom of him because he stings the fire out of stuff. You can see those sweeper tentacles swinging around, so the mushrooms pretty much can't go past that point on either side of him. And then even below him, he'll have those sweeper tentacles running. So he's pretty much the main one in the middle of the tank. Other corals you're going to see more of those rose bulbs. You can see little babies at the top and bottom as well. Those are starting to sprout off and move around in the tank. We also have more of those rhodactis mushrooms growing crazily. And then of course puffers swimming up in the front, always getting that good current to swim through. And then what's actually pushing the water in the back, it's a Rossmont mover. I've really enjoyed these. They do a great job of staying quiet, have a really strong magnet that keeps them in place, and they push enough water that I need them to push. So I have one right there in the middle, pointing a little to the right so that basically pushes that water over the green bubble and swoops along the glass to push those gardens of rose bulbs around, and also keep that cabbage coral very clean of any detritus or algae growing on top of them. So it keeps everybody over there really nice and pushed around. What I also like that it does, it pushes enough, it makes that circle around the tank so that most of the water is going right to where that intake is for the Forza canister filter. So it works in really good fashion. You can also spot here is that yellow stuff growing up towards the power head, and if you look below the rocks to the left of the green bubble, that is actually a ton of yellow sponge that's growing, which is a really cool thing for me. It's always been hard to try to see and find rocks that have a bunch of sponge on them to kind of grow in those dark areas, just to give it a little more color back there. So that yellow sponge has really taken off. It gives it a cool, unique look to the tank. Jumping over to the left side, you will see this massive takeover of these same green, bluish color Redactus mushrooms. They all started out on that first rock in the front, maybe had like 6 of them on there, and they've just completely taken over the years onto that rock, onto the other rocks surrounding it. Even whenever I moved this tank to where I live now, I put all of these on the left side of the tank to try to keep them over there, but as you can see, they've moved over to the right as well, so they definitely take over. Eventually, if I ever do start moving some rock around, putting new things in the tank, I'll probably take some of those out and put clean rock in that's open for new corals to grow, because these guys have just absolutely taken over the tank to where I have no more room to put anything. But it really does make the tank look great. They are huge. They do great in this under the light. And overall, it just gives a great look to the tank. I also have another one of those Rossmont's power heads on the left. So that's going to be pushing water directly across the tank. That kind of flow works good for me. It does cause some dead spots on the left of this side of the tank. So usually we see more buildup of the algae and the detritus, different things like that do build up on the right side. So eventually you'd want to kind of have 3 of them in there, one in the middle, one on the left and right, and you'd create a great effect of that water flow in the tank. And then of course still got some anemones over here. You can see some at the top left, some babies that are sprouting off towards the bottom, and even on the rocks in the front we got a little bitty Yuma Recordia that somehow got onto that rock, and then some more rose bulbs there. Also on the left side is where I have the outtake of the Forza canister that's blowing, that you can't see, but it's behind that anemone at the top left. Overall, the puffer has been in pretty good health. Now, a lot of people always ask, how do you keep this puffer in your tank? I think it's mainly because of the corals that I do have. I have mushrooms, I have anemones, and then I have that green bubble coral. The only thing I've ever really had trouble with him picking at is whenever I'll put harder corals in the tank, like SPS. He loves to pick at those, so you can see I don't have any of those in there right now because he's just so bad about going over there and snacking on them. But overall, he's done really good. You can see he's a little bit skinny right now. I think he has some kind of either parasite or bacterial infection, because he has this knot near his stomach where it seems like he just cannot keep food inside of him. But he eats like a champ, swims around like a champ. They do get into it. Him and the clownfish definitely try to fight sometimes whenever he gets around their anemones. But overall, they seem to get pretty well in the tank and do well together. Just walking through the tank here, showing off these beautiful mushrooms. You can see they really take over. And you can even see on the edges of them will turn a very lime green and lime blue color, because they're getting stung and having a little bit of a chemical warfare going on between them and those rose bulbs. The only real issues I'm dealing with in the tank right now is, of course, you can see we have some dino growing in my sand bed right here. We also have a little bit of mixture of hair algae growing. That's mainly because I've been out of town a lot, so I've been feeding with an automatic fish feeder, which, you know, dumps the pellets and the flakes into the tank a couple times during the day. So being a little bit of a dirtier food that kind of blows around the tank when I'm gone definitely does cause some spikes here, but at the same time, my hermits and snails and even my tang, I mean, they love it. The urchin loves it. They get down there and eat that mess up. So I usually will just let it grow in there until the next time I get a water change. I don't really freak out over it because I know it gives them a good food source to eat on. Now, of course, everybody knows my all-time favorite, the gold striped maroon clown. Swimming around, always taking care of the anemones, not just on one side of the tank. This fish will literally swim to every single one around the tank, no matter if it's a new one or a very old one. We were looking at the calendar the other day, and this fish has turned 8 years old this year. So definitely one of my favorites, one of my longest that I've taken care of. So I've really enjoyed this one over the years. I love this Halloween urchin. I got him probably a few months ago, and he has really done a great job of keeping up with my tank. Hair algae on the rocks was a really big issue I had. Even sucking it off whenever I would siphon the sand, it couldn't get all of it off and it would just grow back so fast. So I got this guy and he really went in there and tore that mess up off the rock. So it was a really great buy, really great find. And I also don't really have a problem with him knocking stuff over. So overall, he's been really great to have it. But mainly for my cleanup crew, we got turbo snails in there. We got different kinds of astrias. We have a ton of hermit crabs. Most of them are like blue-legged, red-legged, just, you know, your basic small hermit crabs. And then, of course, that Halloween urchin. And that really keeps everything in check with how I want it. So they do a really good job keeping everything clean. My Tamini tank definitely hates whenever I film with the GoPro because I'm up close on the tank. So she definitely stays pretty shy, stays in the back. This is about the only shot I could get of her. Usually I have to get my camera out with the long lens on it and stand pretty far from the tank to get a good shot of her. But you can see she loves chewing on that algae that grows in the sand bed, so I usually leave a little bit of down there so that she can get a good natural resource of food. But yeah, looking at an overall shot of it, I mean, it's done really, really good. I haven't had many issues from it. It's just overall a really great tank. Now the lighting on it, everybody likes to know, is we have two Hydro 26s on the left and the right side. They're up in the canopy of the tank, so they're really not far away. I would say, I would guess 4 inches maybe. So they're very close to the water. So most of my levels, when people look at them, they say, dang, it's pretty low. And it's just because it's very close to the water. So I keep it down, mostly running blues, a little bit of whites in there, and then even lower levels of the greens and reds. So I'll show y'all that there. Now, one thing I've always wanted to do is actually show y'all what I have down in the bottom of my tank, what I'm using during the day, what I'm using to keep up with things, and just overall what I've really enjoyed and what I'm starting to experiment with. So we got some basic reef glue that you roll up into a ball and you can stick rocks together. Sometimes you can stick crags. The next thing is that eHym automatic feeder that I use when I'm out of town. We got the AquaProbe salinity tester that I like to keep up with. My salinity levels for Brightwell Aquatics, always been a very trusted brand from my end. They've done really good for me. We have the coral dip just in case anything goes wrong and I need to dip something. That's always done a pretty good job of keeping things healthy and getting that injury cleared up on them. And then the Reef Coat A, Reef Coat B, used it for many years. It's always done what I need it to do. It keeps that calcium and alkalinity up in my tank. Purple Up, a very legendary brand, it's been out for forever. Keeps that coral line growing really well, so I like to dose that just to keep purple looking really good on the rocks and of course on the glass as well. Prime, it's a really great conditioner for marine and freshwater. Most of the time what I'm using this for is if I'm cleaning power heads or cleaning protein skimmers, cleaning some kind of filtration down, like, you know, with fresh water in the bathtub, so I can get in there and really start to scrub it. I'll usually put some of that in the tank just as a precaution, just to make sure any of that chlorine and chloramine stuff is out of the tank whenever it goes back in and water starts flowing through it. My most recent kind of experiments that I've been using is the Aqua Vitro brand, using the A4 to raise the pH, and then also the ions to get that magnesium up. I've had really good results from it. I've really enjoyed using it. I've seen the corals look a lot better. Just overall health on the tank is looking really good. So I'll definitely be looking more at their products and seeing what I can get to help my tank out. Seachum is definitely one of my most trusted ones for keeping my tank looking clean. The Matrix Carbon and the Phosguard put together down in that canister filter really does a great job of keeping the tank very clean and making it look very pretty. So I've always used those, and I always keep buying those because they do what I need them to do. Then we got a box of ChemiClean, gotta have one of those. Cyanobacteria is definitely something everybody's gonna run into, so always have some on hand to go in and treat that stuff because it will knock it out very easily. Going towards the end, we got the API test kits. I've always used theirs. I've always trusted them to show good results, and they've always done that for me. So they've always helped me keep up with my levels for my reef and also catching spikes that might happen in the tank. Sea veggies from Julian Springs, love them so much, use them for forever. Haven't ever actually gone to a different brand for their dry seaweed. They've done a really good job of keeping my tanks very healthy and very pretty. And then on top we got the Formula 2 flakes from Ocean Nutrition. That's what I'll put in my automatic feeder. And then lastly is that Polylab Reef Roids that everybody knows about. Does a great job keeping the corals looking good. After that, that's about it for my 75-gallon reef tank. It has been very good to me. I think y'all all enjoy seeing it and getting updates on it. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If y'all have any more questions for me, something I didn't answer, please leave them down in the comments below. I hope y'all have a wonderful week, and I will talk to y'all later. Don't forget to like and subscribe.